It's the
Okay,
worst.
so Clark's daughter's here, and she said one time they searched his name on the internet. Don't do that. Don't you know you're not supposed to do that?
They did it. We're on like a YouTube kick. That's one of the things our
kids
fam
did?
does.
Yeah.
We pull up YouTube on and just go down rabbit holes.
The
And
thing
they
is,
did
you're
a
not awkward in real
Clarke
life,
interview.
but when a camera comes on, you're like, what do I do with my hands? Right? A little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just don't ever like hearing yourself or watching yourself. Who likes that?
I do.
You do?
I actually do. It's so weird.
You're not supposed to admit it, even if you do like it. You're not
Well,
supposed to admit it.
You think it'd be better if I lied about that?
Yes.
Why?
I don't know.
It's like quirky and cute.
It's narcissistic and arrogant.
It is a little narcissistic, but
I was just kidding.
but I also don't really listen to myself when I talk, so I have to listen back to it.
Yeah.
So I can hear it. Okay.
Well, this is better than any interview. I hope you're recording already.
She is. It's on.
Oh, really?
Great.
I want it to start from that point.
It will. It'll. Welcome back to Started from the Bottom. I am your host, Susan Peterson. I'm very excited. Today we have Clarke Miyasaki on the podcast. Clarke currently runs business development at Vivint. Previously, he worked as a general partner at Kickstart Seed Fund. He also was a chief growth officer at Stance, vice president of biz dev at various companies, including Skullcandy, Hewlett-Packard, and Logoworks. You hold a bachelor's from BYU, is that right?
Correct.
And you're an active angel investor and serves on the board for several companies. He lives in San Clemente with his wife and 3 children. 3 and a half.
4 children.
Miko doesn't live there anymore.
Oh, that's true. Man, that's sad.
I know. But you have 4 children.
I have 4 children.
Yeah, but live with only... Do you still have a room there, Miko?
Guest
You
room.
didn't
She's
save
down
a
to the guest room.
for your daughter when she went to college?
No, because now our boys each have their own room.
Boys don't need their own room.
It's true. And one
Teenage
of them-
boys should not have their own room.
Okay, maybe we'll give you your room back, Miko.
Yeah.
But-
It's not conducive for healthy development. You should hate your brother. You should fight. You should.
By the time my boys are there, she can have her own room because by the time Beckett gets to high school, Kai only have 1 more year in high school.
Wow, they grow so fast.
Or wait, no, 2 more.
Do you know the ages of all your kids?
Do you want me to go through birthdays and ages?
No, I know you're actually pretty thoughtful, so you probably do.
Yes, I definitely know the ages.
Okay, Clarke, how'd you get started?
In life?
Yeah, in your business career.
In my business career?
Yeah,
How far back?
let's start at the beginning.
First job?
Yeah, actually, driving the yellow Nissan to
First drive, yellow Toyota.
Toyota. Dang it.
1979 yellow Toyota. Driving it to McDonald's. That was my first real job.
Were you the youngest McDonald's manager in Rexburg history? Because I feel like that's been disputed a couple times.
Disputed by whom?
Your brother.
No, I was most definitely the youngest
Should we call
McDonald's
him real quick?
manager. No, because it's indisputable. Does he say it was him?
Yes,
Because, well, maybe
he puts it on his resume.
Maybe he was the same as me, maybe, but I don't think he could have beat 17.
No, he says that he was younger than you.
It's impossible.
But
you can only
you
start
guys,
working when you're 16.
I know, but he thinks that he got there quicker than you. I just want this to be a factual episode.
We'll let him have that. I'm willing
Okay.
to. That's a title I'm willing to give up.
Really? You've held it for so
youngest
long,
McDonald's
though.
manager in Rexburg,
Okay.
Idaho.
Okay, continue.
No, I think really my career got started at BYU when I was an intern for a little startup company called Freeport.com. And that was between my junior and senior year. And I loved it. It was during the dot-com boom. We went from 10 employees to 130 employees, back down to 10 employees. I didn't get my last paycheck because we ran out of money, but I loved it. Loved the thrill of the startup, and decided at that point that I was going to do startups. Being from Sugar City, Idaho, I didn't know what that meant, but I thought the way to do that would be go to a big company, get an MBA, and then that might give you the permission to do startups. So my first job out of school was a Ford Motor Company. I actually worked really hard to get that job. It was in their finance program. They had this like little management track where you do a different job every year, and they paid for your MBA at the University of Michigan, which was a top 10 school back then. Hopefully it is today. I don't know if it is today. So that was the path. That was going to be my path to get into startups. Jeff Curl, who was the founder of Freeport, had different options for me. And he told me like 6 months into Ford, he's like, hey, I'm working at this venture capital fund. You should come. I'm like, no, I'm doing this cool management training program and get my MBA. He's like, no, you want to come here. So we had that phone call like every month. And finally in month 11, he said something that got my attention. He's like, Clarke, I am trying to give you the job that the people coming out of Michigan with their MBAs will try to get. That's what I'm trying to give you now. I'm like, oh, really? I didn't really know what venture capital was. So I went out, talked to them, left Ford after about a year only being there, and did vSpring, and that's what kind of got me started in the startup world.
And then where'd you go after vSpring?
Then Logoworks, me and Jeff left together to go to Logoworks. We were super early there. I think there were, I don't know, maybe 5 people there when we started there. Sold that to Hewlett-Packard, and then Skullcandy, then Skullcandy, then Kickstart, then decided to leave somehow a partner position at Kickstart, top of the pyramid, to go sell socks.
Jeff Curl,
not the greatest career decision of my life, but a fantastic life decision. And yeah, so I don't know.
And
I
then
don't know if we want to stop there, but we can hit on any of those. But there's lots of fun stories from all of those stops.
Well, I think something that I've always admired about you is like you're very comfortable with risk and you actually enjoy risk. And I think that there's a lot of people who are getting started who aren't comfortable with risk. Do you have like a formula or like...
I think
comfortable?
So. I think I am comfortable with risk at a certain amount. Most of my I could have started different companies. I've been offered, could have been CEO of like super early companies or a little later stage. I like risk when at least a product's been developed, and I think my best skill set is taking, something that's working a little bit and then
building momentum
and figuring out how to make it a lot bigger. And so I have been comfortable with risk and switching jobs. And I don't know, it kind of goes with my life mantra. Like everything's going to work out eventually. And I know you hate that. And I know a lot of people hate that.
I don't. I was going to say I hate it. And then you said I hated it. And so I'm like thinking, do I actually hate it? I don't hate it. I feel like I've had that actual Clarke's voice in the back of my head saying that. Through some really hard years, and I do feel like it got me through hard years. I believe that at this point, and I feel like I've called you multiple times. You used to sit on the freshly picked board, and I'd call you freaking out about something stupid now in hindsight compared to other issues that I had in my life. But and just calmly and like kind of blasé, you would say that, and that felt like that wasn't the answer that I wanted at the time, although it was probably the answer I needed.
Yeah.
But I do, okay, but risk is not, but there's also, like, how did you get comfortable with risk, or have you always been?
I think I've always been comfortable with risk. I'm super competitive, love to win, and I feel like if you are willing to take risk, then the reward is better. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm a gambler at heart, and so I think it just, risk fits with my personality, and I'm okay with taking it. And I really do believe that, like, if it doesn't work out, then you can go on to the next thing. Like, I think we get so wrapped up in like, oh my gosh, what if this happens or that happens? Hey, that might happen. And if it does, then I'll deal with it at that point. And not to say that life hasn't been hard. Life sucks sometimes. I've had terrible times in my life. But I always have had kind of that thing in the back of my mind. Like, I know it's going to be fine in some way. And, I've made some stupid decisions and had hard times that I've gone through, but I've always known that. And I think having that kind of in the back and just keeping kind of that eternal perspective about things has helped handle risk and accept risk and be willing to take a risk.
So I've changed it now. And my mantra that's morphed into for me is good things are coming.
Yeah, I like that.
Which is kind of the sophomoric version of your freshman version of just kidding.
So much more sophisticated.
Right, exactly.
I agree.
Do you have any other mantras you live by? Is that it?
Mantras? Let's see. Yeah. I'd rather eat well than look good. Eat good than look good. I've always lived by that.
Yeah.
That's been an important one in my life. What else? I don't know. Probably those two.
Okay, I'm sure they'll come up.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk about growing up. Have you always been entrepreneurial?
No, definitely not. I don't even probably know what being entrepreneurial meant until that Freeport experience. I think growing up in Sugar City I had an amazing childhood. Didn't come from much, obviously, but always had fun. And as the oldest of 6, so it was. I thought she was recording me. But yeah.
Clark's daughter is here.
My daughter's here.
His freshman and college daughter, and she's honestly way cooler than you ever.
What?
Yeah.
That's not true. Why?
Look at her.
You can't tell if someone's cool by looking at them.
Yeah. Oh, 100% you can.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
She
could be a poser.
No, I feel like she's like built on your foundation.
Right. And then exceeded.
Yeah.
No, Miko is very cool. She worked by my side over All-Star Weekend, actually, just barely.
I heard from a couple people that she did a great job.
She absolutely crushed it. So somebody said that the Miyasaki gene was struck over All-Star Weekend, and she showed out. So yeah,
wow.
all props to my daughter Mariko.
Wow,
she killed it for me. What we're talking about, Sugar City.
Yeah.
So Sugar City, all I cared about was sports and hanging out with friends. It was a great childhood, like typical small town living. All my friends were farmers, so we would snowmobile and go 4-wheeling and horseback riding, and played a lot of sports. And like everyone from Sugar City goes to Rick's College, so did Rick's College for a couple of years. Went on a mission, and then kind of did the BYU thing. But amazing childhood. My dad worked at the school. My mom substitute taught, and just good old-fashioned small-town living.
Yeah, it's nice.
It was great.
So then when did did Jeff bite you with the entrepreneur
Yeah, I
bug?
think Jeff bit me with it. And then once I went to vSpring, so I was an associate at vSpring Capital. For those who don't know what venture capital is, you raise a fund, and then you take that money and invest it in a bunch of companies. And so I got to see hundreds of companies come through the door. I sat on my first board when I was, an associate at vSpring, and you just kind of got that taste of what it means to build something that's very small and turn it into something big. And I think it just goes back to, it's kind of a game of like, okay, can you do this? And it was so fun just seeing these companies blow up that decided that I wanted to do it and figure it out. And so Logoworks was the first one.
Okay. So how do you build momentum?
I think it's different for every company. I think, I love when people say sales cures everything, because it's really true. Like, you build momentum with the customer in mind first, because if you can sell something, I don't care if you're in software or you're selling moccasins, or you're selling socks, or you're selling headphones, like when sales are happening, everything else you can figure out. But I think you build momentum just by building product market fit. I mean, I think it's a cliche to say, oh, do you have product market fit? But that's really the only answer that matters in business. And if you have a product that solves a certain problem, and that problem is big enough to create a company that, develops into something that you can have a great exit on, then, it's pretty simple after that. No, it's not simple. It's super hard, but really, that's how you build momentum. Find a problem, address that problem, create something that makes sense, that creates value, and then you can, add on from there.
Nate Quigley was here, and he was like, until someone says, shut up and take my money, you don't have a product. And I think about that a lot, actually, how so many people are kind of spinning their wheels trying to sell stuff with this like customer in mind, but no one's actually saying, hey, here, take my money.
Yeah,
I
like that.
want this.
Yeah, I think that's good. Nate Quigley, it's funny. He was one of my first investments, probably my first 3 or 4 investments when I was at Kickstart. And he came in, and I love Nate. Like, there's some entrepreneurs who are like, oh, that person's going to succeed. And he came in, and I hated his business idea. I think it was called Just Family.
Just Family.
Back then.
Yeah.
It's like a photo sharing thing.
Yeah.
I hated it, but I love Nate.
Yeah.
And I think I told him this early on. I'm like, hey, just so you know, I think your business idea is pretty terrible, but you're going to figure it out. Like, I don't know what it's going to end up being, but I know you're going to figure out. And we led the round, like, basically on the premise of Nate. And I think that's the only one we did like that, where I didn't really believe in the business idea, but the entrepreneur was so good that I knew he'd figure it out.
And he did. Look at Chatbox.
He did.
Incredible.
He did.
What is the scrappiest thing you've ever done?
Scrappiest. For sure it's Skullcandy. So I was, I did vSpring, and then Logoworks. Logoworks was more software. I had all of these B2B relationships. And after we sold to HP, I was kind of waiting out my year because I had like this year stay bonus thing. And about 7 months into it, I got a call from Rick Alden at Skullcandy, who said, hey, can you meet with me? I'm supposed to hire you. I'm like, okay. So I went up to Park City, and I opened the door, and he's like, hey, how much money do you make? I'm like, what kind of question is that? Like, how much money do you make? And he's like, well, Jeff Curl told me that I have to hire you. So how much money do you make? If I have to hire you, then we might as well get into it. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? And he said, well, I want you to run biz dev and marketing and do deals with like cool brands and athletes and rappers. And I'm like, I looked at him in the eye. And these were, I think, almost verbatim. I'm like, Rick, I am a Mormon from Sugar City, Idaho. Like, there is no chance I'm going to be able to do that. And so I told him no. I'm like, thanks, but no thanks. Like, I'm in software, and I can do deals, but I wouldn't even know where to start. And he just kept on me. So I think it was like 2 months of telling him no, and him, making the offer sweeter. So I finally told Cammie, my wife, I was like, hey, I'm going to go try this. It'll probably fail. But I think we had 14 employees back then, Skullcandy did. It's super small, so I'm going to go give this a shot. And that's where the scrappiness started. Like, I was in Vegas nightclubs every weekend in LA, had this dude named Fez, who I'm pretty sure lived out of the back of his car, who would like say like, hey, do you have cash? Do you have headphones? And we'd like go to a random club and like bribe security guards to get backstage to talk to like artists and managers and agents. And I think I spent 160 nights on the road there that year. Cammie would call me. We had a brand new baby at home, and it'd just be like club music, like boom, boom, boom. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. What am I doing? But it was like cold calling and like living the weirdest lifestyle that a father of two new kids could go out and do. And I was so scrappy getting those deals. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything about this world. And like, I have 100 stories about signing celebrities and brands, and just like the hustle factor was off the charts. Like 90-hour weeks. I don't know how you quantify the weeks that I was putting in for those first 3 years at Skullcandy, but it was crazy. And we had a lot of scrappy deals. Every deal was scrappy. Like, I built the NBA crew, the Snoop deal. Like, every deal was beyond scrappy.
Like, give me an example.
Because
these deals would never happen today.
Never happen today.
Never.
So like our NBA crew. So I put together the NBA Skullcandy crew. Is super cool.
Yeah, I want to be on that crew.
Cool. I mean, who doesn't want to be on
right?
the NBA Skullcandy crew? And so, like back then, influencers weren't like what they were today. Like, you had Coca-Cola doing big deals, or your Nike shoe deal. But after that, it wasn't like you had a ton of deals like athletes and celebrities have today. And so I decided I wanted to build this NBA crew. And so I started, Diana Day was the first person I called because somebody introduced me to her, and we signed Andre Iguodala, and she wanted to get James Harden on the roster. James Harden at this point was rookie. He's maybe getting like 5 minutes a game. I'm sure your audience is super interested in deep diving
it's
NBA
actually
data
super
right
interesting.
So this is like, can you
Have
please
you heard
get
of Lily Checkett's? She's Nate Checkett's little sister.
Oh, okay. I know that.
And she started a brand called Sportsish, and it
Yep.
mostly lives on Instagram and TikTok right now, but it's all about, stuff about actual
like-
sports, but then
yeah.
like who's James Harden dating.
Oh, yeah,
So
cool.
it's really cool.
I got that.
Yeah. So I'm interested.
Okay, so I'll keep. So James Harden was averaging like 3 points a game, maybe not playing at all. And Diana's like, "Hey, I want you to sign James too." I'm like, "I can't sign James," or like, no one even knows who James is yet, even though he's a high pick in the draft. She's like, "What if I could get you KD to sign with James?" And KD's like the superstar, all-star, one of the best players in the league. I'm like, "Well, yeah." I'm like, "But I can't afford KD. I have like $20,000 that I can pay." And she's like, "Well, let me talk to James." And James is like this super cool guy. I think KD kind of looked up to his coolness or whatever. And James talked KD into signing with Skullcandy. So I reach out, I get his agent's number. I call them. I know that KD wants in. And I said, "Oh, hey, we want to do this." I said, "But we're this tiny headphone company." This was always my pitch. Like my caveman lawyer pitch for those SNL fans from back in the day. I'm like, "We're this small little headphone company in Park City, but we're trying to build this. It's going to be super cool." And then I'd throw out the first offer. I'm like, "But I can only pay Katie $20,000. I'm so embarrassed even to say the number, blah, blah, blah. I had this whole pitch that I'd do. And they're like, "Clarke, Katie doesn't have a deal under $500,000. What are you doing?" I'm like, "I know, I'm embarrassed to say it," but I knew he wanted in. And I'm sure they knew at this point too. So I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. Let's just go back." But I knew they'd call back. So we hung up. It was like 4 hours later. "We can't believe this. Katie's in." So I got Katie, Iguodala, Darren Williams, who's the big star at the Jazz, Harden, Derrick Rose, Kyrie Irving. And so among those, you have three MVPs, an NBA Finals MVP. No, like 3 NBA Finals MVP. Anyway, I had all of them, that entire roster, for under $100,000 a year.
Sheesh.
Like you couldn't get one of them obviously now for that, but that, and I got all of them in Vegas for one photo shoot all together. So that was scrappy, but there's, I don't know, all kinds of scrappy deals we put together back then.
Okay, let's talk about, because I've always admired like your approach to building relationships and negotiating deals and reciprocity. Like, let's talk about like, where does that come from?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a great question. Where does it come from? I think it's just built into you, probably, I guess. I don't know. I love people. I
Yeah.
think it's super easy for me to talk to people. The first celebrity meeting I had was with Slash, and I was so nervous because I'm like, what am I going to talk to Slash about from Guns N' Roses? What am I doing? This is going to be so dumb. And I called all my friends, and then we got in the room and I sat down in the studio and we talked for a half hour, and it was super easy. And I think that's just one of the things that comes easy to me, is I can talk to anybody from any walk of life. And it's, so I don't know. I think it's probably just, I got lucky that I had a personality that I like to help people, like to talk to people. I don't know where it comes from.
Okay, well,
good genes, maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's like a skill I've tried to work on or anything.
Listening, I rolled my eyes. But okay, so do you have any advice when you're mentoring people around like building relationships?
Yeah, so I think there's been a couple of deals in my life that were one-sided, and I think it's great to get as much as you can, but you have to. Like, I think in building relationships, I say yes way more than no. So that's one. Like, I'll be with my wife, and I'll take 3 calls, giving advice to people or whatever it might be. And she's like, "Dude, like, do you get paid for this?" I'm like, "No. Why would I do anything like that?" And so I think the best advice would be nice, be a good person, and try to help people whenever you can. And I never go into anything thinking, oh, what am I going to get for this? That's probably the best advice. Like, don't go into relationships thinking, what am I going to get? Go into a relationship like just being a cool person and figuring out if there's something that you can do together, and everything will end up coming back. I always tell that to like classes that I do, or things when I speak at it. It's just like, hey, put your most into everything that you do, and you just never know when that break's going to come, like when that's going to happen. So I don't know, go into things saying not saying what's in this for me.
So your deals that were one-sided, were they one-sided on your side or someone else's?
On my side, yeah.
And how did it feel after?
Well, the one that I'll use, and I can talk about, like Snoop with Skullcandy. He did so much for our brand. I don't know if you could put it into millions of dollars, like what he generated for Skullcandy. This is in the day of like late night talk shows that everyone watched. He was like putting headphones on Conan O'Brien, on Larry King, talking about us all the time. He did a free concert for me in Vegas at our biggest trade show that like kind of said, dang, I didn't know Skullcandy was like this. Like, he did so much for us. And this was early in the days that like you didn't know to ask for equity, and we just had a royalty deal with him. And like the value creation for what Snoop did for us to what we paid him was so far off. Like, I don't know if it's millions or tens of millions or whatever it might be. And so that was one, like when I left Skullcandy, they couldn't re-sign him because we were public by then and things like that. And so I think if Snoop said Skullcandy, now probably Snoop smokes a lot, so maybe he doesn't. But I remember like thinking, and he was like a friend. Like, we'd talk. He was the best. We'd played hoops together. Like, I love Snoop. But I remember thinking after, like, ooh, it's a little painful to run into Snoop because he gave so much and he didn't have anything to do with the IPO and things like that. So that's one, if I could have, rewind time, I've been like, hey, ask for a half a point of equity if you do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And then it would have been like a fair deal. But like that's one where like it's just, I probably would have, I've done more stuff with Snoop. I signed him at Vivint. And it's cool, but I think like that's just one deal where it wasn't fair, and he should have got a lot more. And I wish I would have done that or had the foresight to do that.
Yeah, push
That's
for
one
it.
example.
Has that informed other deals that you've done since?
Yeah, I think I mean, yes and no. Like I'll always try to get the best deal, for sure. But I think I've always had that in the back of my mind. Like, hey, these are relationships that I'm gonna use and hopefully work with time and time again in the future. Like the NBA, we've had fair deals, and I'll work with them forever with my friends at the NBA. And so, yeah, I have that in the back of my mind more now than when I was early. And it's not this like win-lose negotiation now. It's like, okay, how do we create a win-win for both of us?
Yeah, we've talked about negotiating before, and you love negotiating.
It's my favorite thing.
What about it do you love?
I don't know. It's weird because I hate awkward situations. Like, I won't go to an auction because I can't handle if like an item is up for bid and no one's bidding, and like I hate awkward situations. But for some reason, when it comes to negotiation, like I love it. Like I love the awkward silence. I think probably the competition of it a little bit of like, okay, can I get the most out of this that will work while still creating a deal that we both like? I don't know. I think it's probably the gamification of negotiating, but I do love it.
What are your tips on negotiating?
So if you take a class from Harvard Business School, one of the things that they have a negotiations class.
You didn't go to Harvard Business School?
No. I definitely didn't go to Harvard Business
How
School.
do you know if someone went to Harvard Business School? They
'Cause
tell you. Yes,
they went to
exactly.
Harvard Business School. Yeah, no,
Exactly.
I did not go to Harvard Business School.
But if you take a negotiating class there.
If you
yes.
take a negotiating class there, and they talk about who should give the first offer. Like, what do you think, Susan? Should you give the first offer, or should you not give the first offer in a negotiation? What do you think produces the best outcome in general?
Well, I don't think it matters, does it?
It does.
They have a thing.
Yeah, there's an right answer for this in Harvard, and then I'll give my take on it.
Probably the business. Are we talking about?
No, and we're negotiating your salary.
Oh, yeah. Then I should
So
give the first
who
offer.
should give the first offer?
Well, you. Technically, according to Harvard. Yeah.
No, so in general, Harvard would say the party that gives the first offer ends up with the better deal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what they would say.
Why?
Yeah, they just did a million simulations of
Oh,
negotiating.
did they get McKinsey on it?
Yeah, they probably. According to McKinsey, no, but there's a paper on it, and whichever party gives the first offer in general gets the best deal at the end of the day. I have a little different take on it, and I actually have a slide that shows like x-axis is information, like how much information you have. Y-axis is if you should give the first offer or not. Okay. So like James Harden example, I had all this information that Katie was already in, so I could go in there and give a $20,000 offer. So that would be on I have a lot of information, so I should make a first aggressive offer. So that's like top right quadrant in our little Y-axis chart or whatnot. If I don't have any information, so this is the example, and in my slides, I have like a picture of Katie on one side, and I have a picture of Kate Upton, who's like a model.
Oh, is she?
Do you not know who she is? Do you know who she is? Okay.
Do you know who she's married to now?
Yes, Justin Verlander.
Okay.
I'm decent on pop culture.
Yeah, it's cute.
It's cute. Culture. Anyway, I have her because she is getting. This was before she like blew up, before she is cover of Sports Illustrated. But I knew how much like she got paid to do a cover or for a brand, and it was way more than Skullcandy could afford. And so for her, my strategy was like, hey, I'm going to try to tell her agent, Lisa Benson, who's amazing, still at IMG, all the amazing things about Skullcandy and what we're going to do. And we did take a supermodel to work and how that's going to be great for her. She's going to do this shoot with Katie and James, and it'll be funny and it'll be awesome. And then, and play the poor card, which we were poor. I couldn't really pay her that much. And I'm going to get her to give the first offer. And I was hoping for a number under a certain amount. And she gave her first offer. Hopefully I did a decent job on my pitch. And when she said the number, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to actually get this done. And so that would be the lower left quadrant. So you're where saying, I have no information.
So you give information.
Yeah. So I have no information about what she would cost. Like I thought it was going to be $500,000, $250,000 or something like that. And so since I didn't know, I'm like, I want them to throw out so I don't completely blow it through throwing the offer. So that's the lower left. I don't have information, so I want them to give the first offer. And I've used that 1,000 times in hiring people. Like when I know what their salary range is, then it's better for me to give the offer. When I don't know, then I want them to give their number first. So that's kind of my take on negotiating and offers and things like that.
Okay, so you get the offers, and then what?
And then you just work it. Like I was doing it this morning. Like I was doing this. I don't know. I just love that process. Like I really do. I love the process of like, oh man, we'd love to do this. And I love like saying no and taking the risk of like, oh, I'm gonna lose this. And I have lost some, but you just work it, and I have a whole presentation on this, but there's like little things, like point out their wins. So when I go into negotiation, I'll know like which points I'm going to give on, and then you remind them of that. Like, oh man, when I give on something that I know I'm going to give on, I'm like, okay, let's keep that in mind. You won, Clarke 0. And like things like that, and but it's fun. It's like a little bit of a game.
It is fun. I love negotiating, especially when people don't get emotional.
Yeah, I'm not emotional.
No, I know you're not. Yeah. But when you're negotiating with someone, they get emotional over it. Yeah. You're like, come on.
Yeah.
It's just a game.
Yeah. It's fun.
You're all right at it.
Let's negotiate something, Susan. What do you want to negotiate?
Well, we did the other night.
What was that?
Well, we didn't actually negotiate. I just told you how it was. When I was having you do that Reels challenge.
Oh, yes.
And I
But you didn't even pay me.
Clarke. I'm not going to pay you.
That's fair. But you did throw out an offer, and I did win.
You're making too much noise.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. I know you like to slam your hand down on stuff, but you don't hear it.
Sorry.
But every time you do that, gets the headphones.
I'll put the headphones on.
No, you don't have to. Unless you want to. Just don't start talking quieter. Okay.
I'm going to slam my hand one time.
Yeah. You hear that?
It's not that bad.
It's bad.
I'm talking quieter. I can hear myself. I don't like it.
You take them off.
Yeah, it was a good experiment.
Clarke does not like the headphones.
No.
What's the long-term goal here, Clarke? What are we trying to do?
Long-term goal, raise kids that are decent people and enjoy life and are happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely the long-term goal. From a career?
Yeah.
I think the long-term goal for career is optionality. Like, I'd like to get to the point where you can work if you want to, I can sit boards if I want to, I can golf if I want to. I love working. I have no plans of stopping to work, but that's probably the career goal, and help as many companies as I can go through that process of like starting to an exit. Like, I love that.
Yeah. You're good at that. What is one lesson that you learned early on in your career that is still true today?
One lesson I learned early in my career?
Uh-huh.
That's a great question. I think early in my career, because you see so many companies, and I've watched so many companies, like, you have no idea what is the proper ingredients to success. Like, luck plays such an important part in a company succeeding, and being able to adjust to how luck affects your path. I think that's what I've learned. The people that can change direction quickly and make a decision fast and then go with it, those are the people that I think are the most successful. And I think that lesson I've learned so long ago of I'd much rather have B strategy, A execution, because of the most of the times, like, you don't know what the correct decision is going to be. So assimilate the information that you have, make a decision, and go. Like, analysis paralysis slows down so many companies, and they never get to a point because they're not willing to change. They're not willing to quickly make a decision. So I think that's the one lesson I learned really early. There's not like this playbook of like, okay, I do X, Y, and Z, and that equals this. No, you do X, Y, and Z, and two of those three things didn't work out how you thought they were going to. So you need to pivot and go. But don't go fast, make a decision. And most of the time you have enough information. Don't do things like stupid, like, oh, I was just supposed to go fast. But that's a lesson I learned really early that I've kept. And as you know, like, I make decisions very fast.
Yeah, I think that's something that I learned from you too. I think so many people are analysis paralysis is a blanket term, but like stuck there thinking that they're actually solving the business problems, but they're not even running a business yet.
Yep.
It's all strategy and assumptions. But make some money, put it in the bank, pay your OpEx, like get your momentum going, and then try to solve the problems. Because there's going to be plenty of problems to solve.
Exactly. Plenty of problems. Just figure out your sales problem, and everything else can go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Cash really is king, man. It really is. Solves a lot of problems.
Solves a lot of problems.
And when you don't have it, there's a lot of problems to solve. Who are you looking up to these days?
Well, my answer is always going to be the same. Like, my pops is always going to be number one on that list. He figured out how to think about other people before he thinks of himself. And I am not very good at that. And so that's like, I'll know I've made it in life when I come up on a scenario and I think of other people before myself. And so that's who I will always look up to. And he's literally the best at that. Like, obviously before his stroke, he did this a lot more than now, but he was just, no matter what decision he made, he'd wake up and it would be, okay, how can I help other people before myself? He doesn't even think about, he thinks about himself so far down the line that's what I'll always look up to. And that's when you've made it in life, when you can do that.
I think you do okay at that. I
Mm,
don't think you're terrible.
yeah,
I think
hopefully.
you take on a lot of other people, probably more than you should.
That's what my wife would say.
Right, Cammie? What is some advice you would give young Clarke?
Young Clarke, I don't know. I wouldn't change anything, even though I've made some, like I said, really bad career financial decisions. But I've enjoyed life. I was talking to somebody the other day who had a really sad scenario that they just found out a friend had cancer, and he's like, man, what if that, can you imagine? I'm like, you know what? I'd be super bummed because I wouldn't be able to see my kids grow up. But at the same time, I'm super happy. I wouldn't change anything. Life's been great. And if it's time to go, it's time to go. And so I don't know. I just tell young Clarke, dude, you got really lucky to be able to be around some amazing people and have great experiences. So enjoy it and enjoy the process.
What would you give? What advice would you give someone who's like starting out biz dev?
I'd probably say work hard. So I think there's just a few things, and I always talk about like this art of luck and how to create your own luck. And I think one, it's relationships. So treat every relationship like they're your big break, and you don't treat them like they're your big break by learning or trying to figure out what they can give you. Just be cool. Like, just go about, be cool, be nice. And then next, you got to work. Like,
Nobody wants to work these days.
People see me, and I always get crap like, you've never really had a job, going to all these games and concerts. I'm like, guys, you know how many all-nighters I've put on a spreadsheet, or building a deck, or writing an investment memo, or red-eyeing to New York, and then coming back the same night after doing a full day of meetings? Like, I've worked my butt off, and like, it takes that, and it takes sacrifice. And so I think, and I'd also tell people, like, be patient. I think people, I get the question a lot, like, how do I get your job? Like, I want a job that I love. Guys, we're probably not going to get jobs that we love. There's not hardly any days in my life that I wouldn't have rather gone golfing than go to work. And I've been super lucky to have amazing jobs with people I love. And so I think this fallacy of like, oh, the most important thing for a job is to do something you love. That's a lie. The most important thing for a job is to make money. That's why you work. And if you can build it with people that you love, that's next best case scenario. And then if you can actually love what you do and get lucky in that part, then that's awesome too. But be patient. Like, a career is a career, and it's work. Like, work isn't supposed to be fun all the time. And I think, this generation has, like, there's some things about this generation I love and respect, this young, crew coming up. But I think patience is not something that they have. And so that's probably what I'd preach, is like, patience, put the work in, and just have the right expectation that, like, work is a job. Like, it's a job.
Yeah.
And
stay focused.
Yeah, stay focused. Keep grinding.
Do you feel like that work ethic comes from your parents?
I think so. I've always had a pretty good work ethic, and we grew up with not much, and so it's kind of a necessity for me. But I don't know. I'm a people pleaser. Like, I hate, like, making people disappointed, and so I just think having that as part of my personality, you're like always trying to make people happy, whether it's at work or church or school or whatever, or with friends. And so it just ends up being a lot of stuff, and I like getting stuff done. So
I love it. Okay, you ready for some fun questions?
Fun questions. Does that mean not fun questions if you say fun questions?
Well, I mean, I'm going to put you on the spot on a lot of stuff.
Okay. How many passes do I get?
None.
Okay. That's not going to happen, but I'm guessing.
Okay. Favorite NBA player?
Favorite NBA player? Well, I've
Do you have top 5?
yeah, like my like the homies in the NBA, like Andre Iguodala. Like for whatever reason, he was one of the first athletes I signed, and he's somebody who's become like a really good friend. Love to hang out with him. So for sure, Dre's up there. D Wade, James Harden. So those are like the friends in the league. Donovan, obviously. Don, who's we miss him in Utah, but he's crushing it in Cleveland. So those guys are probably like the favorites because you get relationship. But
Okay. All time?
All time? Favorite all time? I don't know. I don't think there's anyone that I'm like. I loved the Jazz growing up, so I loved Stockton Malone days.
Oh, those are fun.
But Steph and Clay, they changed the game. I love watching them play. So I don't know. I love basketball though. Can watch any NBA game.
Yeah. Favorite rapper? Top 5?
I'd say no. Jay-Z's probably my favorite rapper. I grew up in Idaho where all my friends love country music, and they know I could understand why I loved hip hop. It was just
You don't like
in my
country at
DNA
all?
for some reason. Not really. I'll do 90s country just because I grew up with it.
Yeah.
So when that's
it's like
on,
nostalgic.
yeah, it's like nostalgic. So 90s country station's good. But no, I never liked country. I was the weird kid that always liked hip hop. But yeah, I'd say Jay-Z. He's just, it's just, he's the man. He's the best.
Have you ever met him?
Have I ever met him? Yes.
Have you met his wife?
Yes.
Oh, that's fun.
Really? How'd you know? We just did the anniversary of Clarke Miyasaki Ruined My Life.
Should we tell a story
We should tell the story.
about how you robbed me
I robbed Susan.
of meeting Beyonce?
Susan, she likes Beyonce a little bit. No, what were we at? We were out there to meet with an investor, a potential investor?
No, I was out there for one thing. You were out there for the All-Star game.
Well, no, I was out there for the All-Star, but we were out. We did a meeting together.
Was it then or a different time?
No, it was definitely then.
And then
because I remember going to is like a potential investor.
Yeah,
I think
it was Adam's guy, my sew shop guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were in New York.
There was it was during the All-Star weekend. There was a party that night that Stance always throws called Stance Spades.
It was the first year we'd ever thrown it.
Yeah.
I was very nervous about throwing it because I had this idea to start a spades tournament.
Yeah.
I had it with D Wade and Kellyanne and Vino, so I don't want to take all the credit. I mean, probably 90% of the credit, but not all the credit.
Yeah, no, don't take it all, just a little bit.
Just kidding. But so it was the first year of this Stance Spades party. I was super nervous that anybody would show up.
Yeah.
For real. Like for real.
Plus you were negotiating with the NBA that day.
Oh yeah, it was big.
Yeah.
Big negotiations.
So you had a big day.
I had a big day.
But we were at lunch and I was like, hey, should I change my flight and stay for the party? And you're like, no, you don't gamble, you don't drink. Like you're not gonna have fun.
For the record, NBA, we don't gamble in the spades party. We just play cards.
But
we don't drink. And I said, yeah. I'm like,
okay,
no.
so maybe you said you don't.
I'm
you
like,
don't play cards.
yeah. You don't play cards. You don't drink.
You don't even know any.
I don't
of these
even
players.
know if any. Well, I didn't know if any players were going to show up. I'm like, I don't even know who's going to show up. I would just go home. Like, there's no reason to stay for this.
So I went home.
She went home. The party went.
The party went off. It was like the party of the year.
Yeah, lots of NBA players.
I am flying over somewhere over the Americas.
Ohio, probably.
Or Chicago
Nebraska.
or something. I'm trying to find the hashtag. And I get a text from Noelle. And she's like, Beyonce's here. And I was like, texted Clarke. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
So it's true. And it's one of the first things I thought about is I'm like, Susan is going to be so mad at me. And I was there running the tournament, running the party, and someone texted me and they said, hey, Beyonce's security guard wants to come sweep the area to make sure it's okay that she comes. And I just write LOL. Like, yeah, that's fine. Because we are on this great group text, like, here's who's showing up, here's who's here. Okay, make sure they hit the red carpet, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, LOL. And they're like, no, I'm serious. So I call, I'm like, you're joking, right? How would Beyonce even find out about this party?
Right.
She's like, No, I'm telling you, there are 2 guys here saying that they have to sweep the area before they can bring Beyonce in. I'm like, okay. And Beyonce came in, and you know in the movies how like the room stops?
Yeah.
Like we're all playing cards, and suddenly
Lots of
like
noise.
Queen Bee comes in, and it just like the room slowed down
Wow,
into
that
slow
sounds fun.
motion.
I bet it was really
And
cool.
it stopped, and she came, and she gave hugs to everybody. And
You're lying now. That's where your lies start.
Just one-on-one time, and it was amazing. No, I felt terrible though. I did feel bad.
Oh, yeah, you say that now. He says that
come
now.
on. No, I really did. It was one of the first things I'm like, Susan's gonna kill me, and she did.
So what happened then was I was like, I think I told you, I was like, I'm going to get you back.
You did.
Yeah. So you knew it was coming.
I knew you'd get me back.
Yeah.
The scale
What'd you think?
with which I didn't know, like, I don't know, you pull a prank someday
Yeah.
on me, make me look stupid somehow. I don't know. There's lots of ways.
Instead, I made you look cool.
Cool.
Clarke hates. I did the worst thing you could do to Clarke Miyasaki. So then I printed these shirts that say Clarke Miyasaki ruined my life. And I had tons of them, but I gave them out to all your friends.
All my friends.
And family members.
Yep.
And then we all posted up on the same day, back when Instagram was like, what is it called? Chronological too.
Yeah. Yeah. It was all the same day.
And we just wrote about how you ruined our life.
There were amazing posts. I think it was 60 or 70 people that day on the same day.
Including your children.
Took a picture in a shirt that said, Clarke Miyasaki ruined my life. And then every one of them talked about how I ruined their life. And the posts they were amazing.
Like Ryan Andrews said, one definitive way in which Clarke ruined my life when he left Skullcandy for greener pastures. Not only was he my boss, he was my best friend. So to say we had it good would be an understatement. Needless to say, his decision to leave was based only on what was best for him and did not take into account my circumstances. My life has never been the same.
No, there were like legit amazing posts that day.
People really took
so
time.
Funny. My favorite part was everybody's picture was so sad. They'd like look into the camera with a sad face and then talk about how I ruined their life. And it ended up being actually one of my favorite days ever after the shock and horror. Until my dad's text. So my dad, he was on Instagram but didn't understand. And so he saw a picture of my sister, Elisa, wearing this t-shirt that said Clarke Miyasaki ruined my life, and then her talking about how I ruined her life. And he became like sick worried. Like, what happened? What did Clarke do to Elisa? And he said, he texted Ollie, and his response back, she's like, "Oh, Clarke didn't invite Susan to a Beyonce party." And he said, he called her back. He said, "I don't know who Beyonce is or who he," and he called Beyonce a boy. Like, I don't know who Beyonce is, but explain what happened. And it was amazing. So yeah.
It was a fun day.
It was a fun day, but she definitely got me back. And these t-shirts have shown up all over the world.
Yeah. They've been in thrift stores.
Thrift stores, which offended me, I was offended by whoever gave their shirt that's a super high quality t-shirt.
It's the softest t-shirt.
Softest t-shirt. It's actually amazing.
Yeah.
I would see them in the wild sometimes.
I would see them at airports.
At airports, yep.
Yes.
Somebody would take a picture like someone is wearing your t-shirt and I wouldn't know who this person is.
No.
It was
a movement that caught on, and I feel like had I really doubled down on that, I think I could have made a lot of money off that. That's one of my big regrets in life is not creating a brand off of that.
So yeah, sorry
That's
again
all right.
about not telling you to stay.
No.
I had no idea that
No, it's fine. You've more than made up for it.
More than.
Who's your favorite child?
Well, Mariko's sitting here.
Yeah.
Kaya's my favorite child. She's always been my favorite. But Mariko's the most fun child. Like, if I'm doing something fun, I want Mariko there. She's my concert buddy. She's always a good time. Mariko's probably the most like me. Always says yes down for a good time. Kaya has just always been like, Kaya kind of needs me a little bit. So I don't know if that's why. Beckett's the best child. He's my 13-year-old boy. He's just happy all the time. So sweet. He's the one that the teachers like thank us for having Beckett. He's the one that's had all of like the girls' parents that are around him ask them to save Beckett for their daughter to marry. Then Parker's, wow, what do we say about Peach? Peach is a little punk. He's the best roaster in the family. We do roast battles in our family, and he just like crushes you. You're about ready to cry after him. He's a spoiled little brat, typical last one.
Does he need a new shirt?
Yeah, maybe.
He'd wear it with pride.
but yeah, all my kids are unique, and obviously we love all of them.
You know what's interesting about that is every woman, well, I don't want to say every, but like 99% of the women I've asked that question to don't have a favorite child, but almost every man has a favorite child. Isn't that funny?
That is funny. Yeah.
Okay, I only ask this question to men. How do you balance work, home, and family life?
I have to say, your answer is the best.
What is it?
You don't.
You don't.
Yep, I think your answer is the best. But I think it's try to make the most of it. Obviously, I've been balanced too far work more times in my life than I have with family, but I got super lucky with an amazing wife who can handle it, and we've had so much fun as a family. And I don't think my kids, I don't know, one of them's here, would be like, oh, my dad neglected us by being gone too much. Like, it sucks when I'm gone, but it's just kind of how life is, and you make the most out of that at work, and then you make the most out of when you're at home or on vacations. And I don't think I'm going to be on my deathbed and saying, oh, I wish I wouldn't have worked so much, because that's brought so many things into our lives. And so I don't know. It's hard to have balance, but try to make the most of it when you are in different facets of your life.
Love it. Books or movies? You don't do either?
No, I like movies. I'm not a Noelle's calling, asking where I'm at.
Give me a break,
I'm a ride to the airport.
Okay.
But yeah, movies. I love going to the movies. There's nothing better. I mean, what's better than going to a movie, having a big tub of popcorn and a Coke? Like, that's life.
I cannot do that. I get so much anxiety sitting in a movie.
What?
I know, isn't that weird?
That's the time to chill.
No, I feel like you
Not
fall asleep,
every.
Clarke?
Yeah, I fall asleep.
You have a very special. You can fall asleep anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Noelle or Kellyanne? You have to save one.
That's the one.
We're on a
question I'm not
raft
answering.
in the ocean.
We're on a raft in the ocean. I have to save one. There's
You have
zero
to.
chance.
If you don't save one of them, you die.
I die.
Uh-huh.
I would die before making that decision for sure.
Or get real.
No, for reals.
Be so real right now.
You really don't believe that?
I don't know. Probably right.
I really would.
So Noelle.
I love them. So, I know what Kellyanne's answer was to that question.
Yeah, she said Clarke.
She said Clarke, but I cannot answer that.
Listen,
question.
what I'm
I
trying to
love them
do
both.
here is build momentum and create some triangulation and some drama between the three of you on my podcast, and you're denying me.
Trust me, we have
this.
plenty of drama between us three.
Okay, what's your favorite food?
Ice cream.
Okay, easy.
Easy.
And then last question: what legacy are you trying to build?
Legacy? I'm not trying to build a legacy. Adam Edmonds one time said the nicest thing about me on my wife's Instagram when she posted like happy birthday or something. And Adam said, the greatest thing about Clarke is that there are so many people out there that would say Clarke's one of their best friends. And so I think if I could do enough things that Adam's very nice comment would be true, that would be an awesome legacy to build. And then as long as my kids are at least somewhat decent.
You know what would be really cool is if all your kids thought they were your favorite.
I think they do. I mean, Miko.
You just said Kaya was your favorite.
Well, Kaya's always been my favorite. She's been the start. She's always been the favorite. You can't say it out loud. Well, all of my kids are my favorite at different times, obviously.
Beautiful.
But
All right,
I
Clarke.
love my
Thanks for
kitties.
coming on.
Thanks for having me, Susan. You're the best.
You are.
Can I talk about Susan?
If you want.
Should we talk about it?
Go ahead.
I mean, we haven't even talked about how we met. We met at a Mexican restaurant when Susan was... How many pairs of mocks were you selling a day then? Like 8?
Probably 20.
20?
Yeah.
When she is selling maybe 20 mocks a day.
I was making them all.
And
I
she is making them
stopped
all.
making them to come
living
to lunch.
in the apartment
Yes.
in Provo.
Yeah.
And we went to lunch. And, I normally it would have been a little early stage for me to do something with, but I loved Susan, from the start. Like, I could tell, I mean, she was making mocks out of an apartment in Provo and somehow had built a little momentum. And it is one of my favorite entrepreneur stories, watching Susan go from selling 20 mocks a day to where it has been. And she's like the ultimate example of grit and just getting stuff done. And like your top tier example I look up to for entrepreneurship. And you have way more wisdom and smarts than you ever give yourself credit for.
Sheesh,
And
Clarke.
so
I'm blushing.
I got all the love in the world
Mm,
for Miss Susan.
I feel the same way about you. Thanks, Clarke.